So just a slight correction here. I am the wife of Pastor Asamoah. It would be a miracle if I was that man's mother. But
Yes,
I'm
I
only
thought
joking. If
I
he could be
heard
my
that.
son, I'll take him as a
Yes,
son.
I was quickly going to
Now, I am
amend.
not sure what I did to my...
What did I say? I thought I said she
You
is the
said the
wife.
mother.
Oh, no. She is the wife of Pastor Asamoah, often known as 3A's because all his names are AAA, and she has three beautiful children. My apologies. My
Kiki
apologies.
and Melly, yeah. All right.
It's okay. No worries at all. No worries. He could be my son, I will take him as a son too. He's an amazing man. So I am not sure what I did. I was trying to show my PowerPoint, but I think I must have hit something. And here we are. So I'm going to keep trying, but I think I've been invited to speak about, how ministering to youth at risk or at risk youth. I'm just going to start by saying that I want to thank all of you really for this, for inviting me here, Pastor Ben. I thank you. And for all of you really for taking your Sunday afternoons to be here, to be a part of this. It's such an amazing, an incredible thing to do, to have an opportunity to minister to young people, especially such as yourselves. So I am thankful and I'm grateful to be able to be here with all of you. Can you see my slides?
Yes, we see your
Yes, we
slides.
can.
Okay.
Can it be bigger than this? It looks like
I
it's
thought it was
on the
bigger,
side.
so I am not
The
sure.
previous one was better. Okay, could you do that again? And when
Sure.
selecting the share screen,
I will share the screen and then I will hit it. It's still not big enough.
not yet here.
We actually
Okay.
can't see your screen now.
What is going on?
I mean, wait, we
Okay,
have it.
now we can
Perfect.
see. We can see it now.
You can see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So we are talking about now do you see my screen still the way I had it before?
Yes, we see your screen.
This is
Oh,
good.
wonderful.
Pomaa, yeah, perfect, Pa.
Wonderful. Oh, broccoli. So good to hear from you. Yes, so we're talking about engaging at-risk youth. For some of you who may not know, I've been working with youth. You know what? For me, I think every youth is an at-risk youth because there's so many things that they go through, and especially in this current environment or in this world with everything else that is there. And for over 20 plus years that I've worked with youth, I will tell you, I have seen it all. If you give me a chance to tell stories, I will tell you so many stories because there are some things that kids do. Sometimes it's from so many things, so many places, so many reasons why they do it. Other times is from what is happening at home, right? And how it's manifesting. And so I'm just going to talk a little bit because I think I was given 45 minutes. I'll try to minimize what I'm talking about. So our memory verse for today. So the outline, I'm going to talk about the memory verse. What is an at-risk youth or who is an at-risk youth? Then the youth risk behavior survey data. I'm just going to share small data with you. Just going to talk about adverse childhood experiences, and then we're also going to talk about maybe taking a religious framework, right? So how do we support these kids in a religious environment, to help them grow spiritually? Because the first part is getting them there, and they are here. So if they are here, how do we keep them here? And also talking about the SDA Child Protective Plan, and because our church has a plan working with youth at risk. So how do we implement these things to make sure it works for the kids? So our memory verse is it's from where did we put it? But anyway, so the king replied, "Truly I tell you, whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me." Is in Matthew. One second. Is in Matthew. So ministering to at-risk youth means that you're providing spiritual and emotional support to young people who are facing significant challenges in their lives. Sometimes not of their own doing, it's just the environment or whoever's raising them or what they're dealing with. And so when you look at this picture, right, you see an adult or who is like an adult putting a hand, what appears to be a comforting hand on a young person who seems, with their head down. So even based on their body language, right, it's obvious, it's clear that they are dealing with something in their lives and that this person is trying to be a comfort for them. And I think that is how we all want to see ourselves, people that work with young people. And I will tell you, if you're going to take on this role, this responsibility, be prepared because it's not a walk in the park, like they say. and yeah, grow, and yeah, some ketua. It's a say you be you are well, you are determined, you are just grounded in your own faith, right? As a Christian, as a Seventh-day Adventist, that you know the Bible, you understand, and you also have compassion. So you're a very compassionate person, because sometimes some of these children, they will push you, they will try you, they'll try to do whatever. That has been their reality for so long. So why should I trust you? Why should I even believe what you're telling me? Why should I feel like I have to give you the chance to enter into my world? So how do you enter into their world? So we are going to talk about who are these at-risk youth, what is at-risk youth, or who are they? Some people are at-risk youth who are vulnerable to experiencing adverse outcomes as a result of engaging in risk behaviors, or the kids that are experiencing risk factors in their lives. So a risk behavior is an action that a youth engages in that increases the likelihood of adverse outcomes. A risk factor, circumstances in the youth's life that increases the likelihood increase the likelihood of adverse outcomes. Risk factors are not behavioral choices. Sometimes they cannot do much about it. So some people are at greater risk than others because of experiencing an ACE or ACEs than others. So that's an adverse childhood experiences. Some kids have it more than others. While not all children are at risk of ACEs, numerous studies show inequities in such experiences, and the inequities are linked to historical, social, and economic environments in which some families live or in which some kids grew up. So you would expect that a kid whose parents are able to provide, that is not experiencing homelessness, is not experiencing other things, lives in a so-called, safe community or all those things, have an intact family that are supportive and all, you expect them to have a better or a different outcome than a kid who is struggling. So if you don't have the right intervention in place, and that's where you all come in, because when we talk about interventions, you are the ones that are going to provide that intervention for the child. And so there's inequities. And sometimes we ask, why don't we call her against her or whatever? Well, you don't know what is going on with the child. So unless you understand where they're coming from, what their family history is, what the kid is dealing with when they leave church and go home, you cannot judge. And so if you've been placed in a situation where you are in a position to help, you've been placed in an amazing, incredible place. I always talk about how much I love my job. I really do, because I come into contact with kids that would otherwise not maybe have that support or whatever. And so I take my job seriously. It's my calling. That's what I call it. It's a calling, even though I work in a school, in a public school, but it's a calling because you can serve God wherever you are. But in your case, you are serving God in the church. And so it goes outside of that too. So the risk at risk are kids that need all the help and support that we can give them. So there was a behavioral survey that was done. In fact, the government does it, I think it's every 5 years or every 3 years. I'm not exactly quite remember, but they do it. And so the reports, the trends that they were seeing, the last report was done in 2023. Actually, it was done in 2020, and then report came out in 2023, is that they see, an increase in sexual behavior amongst young people, substance use, experiences of violence, mental health, suicidal thoughts and behaviors, and other important issues like social media and media use. So this youth risk behavior survey data and trends report provides data on health behaviors and experiences of high school students in the United States. The data highlights behaviors and experiences in 2023, which with the changes from 2022 and 2023, and then also a 10-year trend. So the report focuses on what I just talked to you about. So with sexual behavior, they observed, or they reported that sexual behavior amongst kids has gone up, and actually sexual onset is starting at age 13 for most kids. Violence has also gone up. Substance use has gone up amongst even middle school kids, right? Where now vaping, I'm sure you've all heard of vaping. When vaping first became a thing, here in the US, it looks like they keep changing it. So sometimes you can't even tell what it is. But you will see the kids holding what look like oh my gosh, I can't remember the name, but it's what you attach to your computer to keep data on. I can't, to put your computer data on. I can't think of the name. When I remember, I'm sorry?
And drive.
Yes, it looks like that. So when a kid is holding it, you're thinking that they're trying to save data or they're trying to do work in school or whatever. but they are vaping. Now most schools I know have bought vaping detectors and have placed them in their classrooms or in their bathrooms to teach kids that are vaping. Elementary school kids are even doing that. So violence has also gone up. In fact, in New York, what they noticed was that 400 and 4,209 major crimes were committed by kids starting in September. In September, 4,209 kids have been arrested for a major crime. It was interesting. So I'm just going to digress a little bit. There was I'm not sure if you all read about two young men that knocked on somebody's door, and then in New York, one of the boroughs, the person opened the door, and I think they were trying to rob them, and they shot this person and killed them. So it's in the courts now, so I don't want to comment too much on it. But that was a kid, one of the kids was a 16-year-old. That was a kid that I knew from when this kid was in the middle school. They moved from from my school is to to New York in another state. So I'm not sure exactly what happened there. But kids, a 16-year-old, walking to somebody's home, knocking on the door and shooting them. I don't know all the facts, but I'm only telling you what I saw in the papers. So more and more we see kids doing it at school. You see fights, you see so many things happening because violence has gone up amongst kids in New York. The data's from New York. Suicide, last year alone, in 1 year, 48 kids young people ages 18 to 24 completed suicide. If you include the ages 5 to 17, that was 11. But, it's 11 may sound like a small number. But my goodness, that is, a lot of kids that have lost their life to suicide because kids have this feeling of hopelessness and sadness. And so mental health, actually the data is 38% of kids, high school kids, reported feelings of hopelessness and sadness. But I'll tell you this number is not even accurate because with what I do, knowing the kids that I see, seeing what I see every day, the number is really high. It's higher than 38%. So we have kids that are going through all of this. We have kids that are, becoming violent, 38% having feelings of hopelessness and sadness, 48 people, actually young people, completing suicide because, they feel hopelessness and also they feel sad and they don't know what to do. And so we have young people also, initiating sex at age 13. These are some of the kids that are in our churches that we encounter every day. Because when they talk about the stats, right, Christians are not exempted from these numbers. We are part of that too. So we see them, they come to church, they look okay or whatever. A lot of our kids are hurting. Homelessness, 146,000 students reported homelessness. 146,000 kids in New York, in schools. Not all of them report. What the data looks at is for kids that they don't live in their home anymore. And, and I see this all the time. So sometimes a kid will tell you, my family's sleeping at a motel because we got kicked out of our home. My parents can't pay their rent. My parents lost their job. This happened to us. And you have some kids sleeping in their cars. I have a 16-year-old that used to sleep in a car because they had nowhere to go. The parents couldn't afford to upkeep this child. So you have a 16-year-old sleeping in a car, but they don't always tell you. So when you see them, you see, a regular kid, they come to church, they might act a little bit, maybe a little bit hyper, they're running around, they are doing things, or, they might even show some oppositional things. You talk to them, they're not even listening to you, or they seem so unfocused, they're not even paying attention. And you're wondering, why is this kid being so rude? Why is this kid not paying attention? Why is this kid not listening to me? Why is this kid every time, oh, that's sorry, yeah, no, but because it's a problem. Sometimes we think that, we say that, and the kids might feel these things, and they know that's what other people think about them. But unfortunately, they're not able to do much about their situation. So when you're a kid that feels like that, and, you go to school, you get judged because you get written up, and you go to detention, or your parents are called in every day, or you're having to repeat a class, it's affecting you academically and socially and all. And you come to church and it feels like your church community is judging you because, oh, yeah, money or whatever it is that we label these children. Would you even come to church? I wouldn't. If I felt like my church community was so judgmental of me, I'm not excusing behaviors, of course, but I'm also saying that the way we respond to these children should change. Because if I'm homeless and I have not eaten, I have not, I have to take a shower in, some public restroom or wherever, and, or I'm having all these thoughts, suicidal thoughts and things like that. Yeah, I'm going to act a certain way. And so it's up to us to figure out what's going on with these children and to be able to support them in the best way possible. So I talked about ACEs, right? The adverse childhood experiences that people go through in life. They are traumatic events that occur in a child's life or in a person's life. They can have so some of them are physical abuse. A lot of kids experience physical abuse. The parents are, they have a short fuse, the slightest thing, no bonusum, and I said wabona, no wachina to form, and all those things. I'm not excusing our culture, but sometimes our culture permits these things. So the parents feel like they need to do that. There's no excuse for that, right? For being physically abusive to your child, because you are taking something away from them that can only be restored through Christ. It's saying is self-esteem. And my name Phyllis said, also a part of something, and you really break them. So I think so. We have kids that experience physical abuse, but we may not see it. I work with kids that even in the summertime, not with share long sleeves. It's like, why are you wearing those things so hot? Or sometimes they wear a turtleneck, they don't want to take it off because they're not trying to show you the marks. They know that if you see it, you have to make a call. I don't want to get their parents in trouble, because suppose they don't get removed from home and they have to go back to those same parents. I mean, am I going to tell you now? So we have these kids in our churches because the data on that is very high. So it's not happening just outside of our church. Outside of our churches, it happens in our churches too. Emotional abuse, the words parents use can cut so deep, so deep. Once again, diminishing who this child is. And so we also work with these kids. They are with us all the time. Sexual abuse, some kids experience sexual abuse at the hands of a parent or a family friend, or even sometimes clergy, or even sometimes with youth leaders. I mean, these are all documented things that happen, not just in the Catholic Church, but in all churches or in all religious, environments. They do happen. And so, yes, there are so many ways that kids express how these things happen. Some of them, they might be sexually promiscuous. No, it's a manifestation of what happened to them. Sometimes they act in a certain way that you feel like they're coming on to you. Yes, it's also a response to what they have experienced. And sometimes they are withdrawn and timid. They are going through it. And so we have to be compassionate with them. So that's one of the ways too. Let me go back to physical abuse. Kids that are abused on a regular basis sometimes also tend to be aggressive. So those things, those are some of the ways those things are manifest. Domestic violence, if you're new. So, hurting people hurt people. Parents are constantly at each other's throats. But your boss right now, you mean clean and all those things. So kids witnessing that takes a toll on them too. And they sometimes may internalize these things and may not even talk about it, but they are dealing with some of these. Parental substance abuse or substance misuse. I mean, parents, yes, even in our churches, use substances. And so the kid is there watching it, and it can alter the way the personalities, the way they respond to their children, the way they do things. I mean, the person is drunk, saying things they shouldn't be saying, and all these things. So they are putting their kids at risk. So these are some of the kids that are at risk kids that we work with, that we see in our churches, in our communities every day. Mental illness. If one parent has a mental illness, and it's severe, even if it's not severe, I mean, you tell me, how much support can they be for their child? They will try, but it may not be like what a parent without mental illness would be able to provide. And sometimes, it can be a mild form of mental illness. So we may not even, subclinical, may not even notice that they're going through something, or sometimes it's very clinical. And so it needs help. And they may come to church dressed in a certain way. Excuse my language, but maybe their hair is unkempt, their clothing is unkempt, they look a certain way. They may, and we see this, I see this, in my job too. They may even smell a certain way. And all these things. Years ago, I worked with a kid who was being raised by the grandparent, not a Ghanaian kid, but this was in school. Being raised by the grandmother. The grandmother had been hospitalized, so there was nobody at home with this child. This was a middle school kid. the kid was afraid to tell anybody because they felt like if they told, we had, we would have to call, I don't know what you call it in New York, but in my state we call it DCPMP. So maybe CPS in other states or whatever you call it. So these kids, so this kid will come to school, sometimes in certain clothing, and kids didn't want to play with her. She was very isolated. And it came to my attention, the mom was out of the house due to mental illness. So the grandmother was, so we had to go on a field trip. The kid had to go sign a consent form to be able to go on a field trip. And she wasn't signing it. So I called her to my office. I said, what is going on? She said, can I confide in you? They said, I have nobody home. What do you mean you have nobody home? You live with your grandmother. My grandmother's in the hospital, has been there for a while, but I can't tell anybody. So can you help me? We see these kids. The kids used to tease her. But what they didn't know was that the kid was going through something that no one knew or understood. I had just met a middle schooler, 11, 12-year-old kid, to get up in the morning, make breakfast, shower, use deodorant, clean themselves the way they're supposed to, fix their hair, polish their shoes, whatever, and come to school looking great. No one, right? So it's no one taking care of this. Their uncle who would occasionally go and take a look at this kid and then go and be on his merry way. We have kids. Some of these kids are in our churches. Maybe we may not know it because we feel we are all Christians. But some kids, the care in the home due to mental illness may be so minimal, so they may look a certain way. We have to be mindful of the way we are responding to these kids. Some families, maybe some families have experienced suicide or death. And so when you are a child and you experience that, and sometimes if you don't have the right intervention, it can have an effect on you. It's a traumatic experience to have a parent, die by suicide or maybe die by death or anything of the sort. It can affect the child. And so we work with these kids, we see them, and what are we doing about it, right? Crime or imprisoned family. Sometimes you may have a family member that's incarcerated. So when they are not there, who is watching the kid? So in a sense, what these ACEs is talking about is that, because of all the things that the kids go through, they are always in a heightened place, always now I anxious. And so they may act a certain way that we do not understand. But we have kids that are going through this. And so how do we support that? So some of these kids, it can have a lasting effect on health and well-being in childhood. And in fact, in life opportunities well into adulthood. So with only 24 now at Sakura, well, they have not addressed these days. And so it also affects life opportunities and includes things like their education and even job potential. 3 in 4 high school students reported experiencing 1 or more ACEs. 3 in 4 high school students. This is a national data, not just New York. 3 in 4 high school students. And 1 in 5, listen to this, 1 in 5 experience 4 or more ACEs. And so we cannot say Ibini Yasorimo because it is there. These were kids that they collected the data from. So we have some of these kids in our communities, in our church communities, in our environment. ACEs that were most common among high school students were emotional abuse, physical abuse, and living in a household affected by poor mental health or substance use. So understanding these ACEs, having an awareness of the trauma experienced by the youth we work with will help us develop empathy for these affected youth and work on healing their pain within a religious framework. So I have a video to show next. I am not sure if the video is going to show. So if Pastor Ben, if you can show it, maybe on your end, will show, but let me see if it works here. If it works, great. If it doesn't work, then you can show this. Can you all hear me, please?
Yes, we can hear you. I think the communication
Great.
team does have the video, so they're gonna play it as well.
Abraham, can you check the sound? We could barely hear it. Okay, Auntie Pomaa, can you stop sharing your screen, please?
I'm sorry, I think I'm hearing sounds. Is everything okay?
Yes, can you stop sharing your screen so that we see if we can play from the other end, please?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. communication. Please, can you take over?
Adverse childhood experiences, called ACEs, are stressful or traumatic experiences that occur in childhood, like violence, abuse, and growing up in a family with substance use or mental health problems. When a caring adult or supportive environment doesn't soften those adverse experiences, or when they are ongoing or overwhelming, they can lead to a prolonged activation of our stress response, called toxic stress. Think of toxic stress like this. Our bodies were designed to escape predators quickly. Imagine you're walking through the woods and you see a bear. Your brain signals your body to release stress hormones like adrenaline and cortisol. Your heart begins to pound and your body prepares you to either fight or run from the bear. And that's useful if you're in the forest and there's a bear. The problem is when children face threats to their physical and emotional safety, and this system is activated over and over and over again. What was meant to protect you begins to do the opposite and becomes damaging to your health, creating long-lasting wear on your body and brain. Children are especially vulnerable to the effects of ACEs and toxic stress because their brains and bodies are still developing. The toxic stress from ACEs and other adversities such as poverty, racism, discrimination, and natural disasters can disrupt the normal functioning of vital bodily systems. Simply put, toxic stress can result in long-term mental and physical health conditions. Not only that, but the effects of ACEs can be passed from parent to child for generations through the biological changes and behaviors associated with ACEs and toxic stress. A person with 4 or more ACEs is twice as likely to suffer from heart disease, cancer, and stroke, 4 times as likely to develop depression, and 12 times as likely to attempt suicide. The good news is that safe, stable relationships and environments and other interventions such as physical and mental health support can reduce the risk of ACEs leading to toxic stress and stress-related health conditions. To learn more, visit www.osg.ca.gov.
Is it sharing?
No, not yet.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay, sure. Is it sharing?
There we go.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah,
Oh, sorry.
can you reshare it again? Yes, because now we
Okay.
can see the whole screen.
All right, great. Is it good now?
No, not yet.
Not yet.
Yeah, because we see the backstage, the presenter view. So if you could stop and then come back again.
Okay. All right, let me share again. Sorry about that.
Problem.
One second. So I think based on what we watch, I'll keep talking as we do this. What we get from this, right, is that do you see it now?
No, not yet.
No, please
It's
share.
coming.
Okay, you see it now.
Perfect.
Yes.
Perfect.
Yes.
Okay, great. So what we've seen, what we watch, is just it just goes to show that regardless of what a child has experienced, we can, as people that work with them, right, we can mitigate the effects of whatever the ACEs are. Because if a child finds safety, if they find a safe place, and what is amazing to me is that a child like that will still come to church, or will still come to school, or will still try to find somebody in their life that can provide that support. And I think that is where we all come in, because we have the ability to make this a possibility for the kid. We can be the intervention that the kids need. So the Child Protective Plan of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. Adventists place a high value on children. In the light of the Bible, they are seen as precious gifts from God. This is from the GC website. From God, and they are entrusted to the care of parents, family, community of faith, and society at large. They possess enormous potential for making positive contributions to the church and to society. attention to their care, protection, and development is extremely important. Our church affirms or reaffirms and extends its long-standing efforts to nurture and safeguard children and youth from persons, known and unknown, whose actions perpetrate any form of abuse and violence against them or sexually exploits them. Jesus modeled the kind of respect, nurture, and protection children should be able to expect from adults entrusted with their care. And some of his strongest words of reproof were directed toward those who would harm them. Because of the trusting nature and dependence of children upon older and wiser adults and the life-changing consequences, when the trust is breached, children require vigilant protection. So we all come in. So redemptive correction. How do we work with parents? How do we work with the people that are working with children to make sure? And I think that's what we are doing now, right? Getting this training, understanding that there are kids amongst us that might be hurting. I think, you know, you guys have done an incredible job. First of all, acknowledging that there are kids at risk who are in our midst that come to church or that have at least stepped foot in our church because they are looking for something. I think that I don't even know how to applaud all of you, right, for acknowledging that, first of all, because whenever somebody is hurting, just acknowledging, right, and saying that I understand what you are going through. I hear you, and I am here to support you. I think that goes a long way for any child, any person who may be suffering. And so the redemptive correction, we're trying to correct these kids, but in a way that redeems them, not to further harm or hurt them. To make church a safe place for children. And that's you doing that because you work with these kids. You will have more contact with them than the church pastor or than the church elders or than the women's ministry or whatever. I mean, you work with youth and the children. So how do you make church a safe place for them? And I think, you know, I want you to think about these things because before I end, I'm going to go back to this slide again and ask people to share how they can make church a safe place for children. Also fostering emotional and spiritual healing, just being there. How do you foster them to heal emotionally and spiritually? For a wounded kid, they might have trust issues. They might not want to be near anybody. They may have an attitude because I don't want to begin to attempt and all these things. And it's easy for us to lose hope, to step back, to start working with them, to not even want to be bothered because the kid is rude. The kid doesn't even listen. They talk back at you, they do things, and you're probably thinking, we are at church. Why are you being so annoying? You might even think that way sometimes. But how do we even help them to foster? We have to foster this, right? The emotional and spiritual healing. So what do we need to do to ensure that the kids are at the place where they need to be? Protecting confidentiality. When somebody comes to talk to you, for me, I take it as such a privilege for anybody to open up and share with me something that they've only shared with God or with one other person. For anybody to sit with you and talk, I don't know if any of you have been in counseling, but for somebody to sit there with you and tell you things in their heart, the trauma they have experienced, the disrespect, the pain they're going through, or some things they've done that you may not approve of, but or no one can anyway. You know, you have to protect that confidentiality. But then before you talk to the child, you have to let the child know, you know, you can tell me these things, you can tell me anything, but if somebody is hurting you now, I have a duty to report. You hope you all know that you have your duty to report. Once you work with young people, with kids, you have a duty to report. When the child expresses abuse or anything untoward that's going on in their lives, you have to report. So you should always make it clear to the child now, because same relationship, you know, say, and the culture will be they're in a situation where somebody is abusing them in a way that should not happen at all. You have a duty to report. So let the kid know upfront that I'm here for you, but there's some I can protect your confidentiality, but there are certain things that I have to seek help for you. How we as a church, how do we select and manage our volunteers? Because you're all volunteers. Taking your time, spending your time to do God's work. We all do this because so, you know, we don't even need to get paid for it. We will still do it above and beyond. You're all good people. You all have the heart to serve God and to make a difference in somebody else's life, in the lives of young children or young people that are suffering. But the church has a responsibility to select and manage these volunteers because not everyone who is doing this, and So the church also bears some responsibility for selecting you here now, listening to this, being a part of this training. The church put a big trust in you, knowing, say, that you are going to do what is right in God's eyes. So the selection and management of volunteers, all of us on this line, is very important. And once you've been picked by your church, selected by, whatever church body selected you, it's a privilege, it's an honor that has been bestowed upon you, because young people, you see it. I mean, almost sorry, they follow their parents, they come to church. When they get older, they go to college. They don't even want to come to church anymore. But some of them will come because of who you are, because of the person that you are, because of the way you treat you now. So it's very important that we are the person that the kids can look at too. Orientation, just giving them orientation, because you're not just going being thrown into it like, oh, you've been selected, go and do the work. But just orientation is important, and that's on the church's end to do this. So religious framework, right? How do we combine compassion, our church's values, our love of God, and everything else that we need to help these kids develop and grow? So this is where the crux of the matter. This is why we are here, why we do the work that we do. How do we do this? In a religious framework, you have to offer healthy relationships. Your relationship with these kids should be healthy, because they have been, because at-risk kids have suffered so much from other people, they can be vulnerable, very vulnerable. Into show no love kakrabia, they think they may see it in a certain way, they may misunderstand, especially the ones that have experienced sexual abuse. We show love when we say so they may act a certain way. You have to offer them healthy relationship. What does a healthy relationship look like? Yes, I'm a grown man, I'm a grown woman, and you are a girl, you are a boy, but I want to show you what it looks like. So this is what it looks like. I'm going to treat you with respect. I'm going to listen to you. I'm going to make sure that you are safe, and that I'm going to set clear boundaries, because that's where it is. When you set clear boundaries for them, they need to know, you should be able to correct them, right? In a way that respects the child, and also is in step with our church's values and our church's teachings and your values as a Christian. So you show them love, but you also set clear boundaries. And I do now text, hey girl, how are you? When you do that, you have failed as a church leader. When you do anything untoward with a child that has been entrusted in your care, you are not doing your job as God wants you to do. But the boundaries has to come from you, because some kids, because they have never had those boundaries in their lives, they don't know, they're all over the place. You can't just say, oh, she made me do it, or he made me do it. No, it doesn't go anywhere. Next thing you know, you're finding yourself in some hot waters. So I cannot stress the importance of offering healthy relationships and showing them love, but setting clear boundaries. You are the adults in the room. Do that. Those kids need that boundary. They need structure in their lives. And when you create that, because you are providing something that they've been missing in their homes. Be prepared for this job. Like I said earlier, it's not a walk in the park. You will hear things that you've never heard before, because these kids have experienced things, have seen things. So be prepared yourself. Oh my gosh, when you do that, you shut them up. They're not going to talk anymore. So be prepared, and know that you may hear things or you may see things that you may not even be familiar with. But how do you even help address? Yeah, I won't tell that. You have to be prepared. Shock and all those things. Create a safe space. Is church a safe space for these kids? Are you a safe person for this kid? That is how you minister to them. You are a safe person. The kid is coming to you. Apparently, the trust has been broken. It's probably doing drugs. It's probably, being very promiscuous. Is maybe has been incarcerated before. Is doing all these things, right? But you are creating a safe space for this child to come to you. So that our church has to be a safe space, and that's why I put, don't be judgmental. We judge these kids. And then why you need to wonder about, sorry, what does the hair got to do with anything about learning about God? Can anybody tell me? Well, hair has nothing to do with how you're worshiping God. Because you know what? You come as you are. And as they understand, and as they accept what we are teaching them, they will change. They become different people like they're supposed to be. But when they're coming in and we start with, what pants are you wearing? Pull your pants up and all those things. Okay, maybe that's all I have. Maybe I had to borrow some pants, or I have to get it from a thrift store or wherever. A roll, we need belt. So you can say, oh, Pomaa, or Kwasi, or whatever the kid's name is, Come, let me help you fix the pants. Okay, you got a belt? No, I don't have a belt. I'll go. All right, I'll get your belt next week. You can do that. That is our work. We don't judge it. We don't judge. We create a safe space for them. Connect them to meaningful activities, ministry, and values. Sometimes they may be good at something. Maybe they may be good at playing the piano. Let them help play the piano. They may be good at playing drums. If you have drums in your church, let them do that. Maybe they may be good at ushering people in. Hello, good morning. Let them do that because it gives them purpose. We all need purpose. We are only purpose, no. So when that kid has purpose, they will come because you gave them something that they do not have. And also, so that becomes their ministry and also helps them learn the values of the church and how they should live as good Christians. Affirm them and help them develop their identity in Christ. Whatever the child has done, whatever they've talked to you about, even going to, even with their identities in so many different areas, help them develop their identity in Christ. Wakorano, na untimin sakra. I don't know how much time we have, but I'm going to run through this. I have a kid. I call him my son. For those that know me, I don't have a son, but I call this boy my son. So when I talk about people that know me, I refer to him as my son. This kid came to me one time. I've known him for so many years. He came to me one time. He's graduated. He's a grown man now, and said, there's something I like about you, Miss Kid. And I said, what is it? I'll say, you're a Christian, right? And I said, yeah. Well, see, you're one of the few Christians I know that's not judgmental. I was like, well, I don't know. I know plenty that are not judgmental. I don't know which Christians you know. And he says, you do know my orientation. I said, yeah. And he said, so why hasn't that been a problem for you? And I said, why is it a problem for me? I pray for you. I pray that God will uplift you and help you. This kid has been asking to come to church with me for the longest time. You know, I haven't brought him to my church or to any church. I told him to go to an Adventist church because, he speaks English. And at my church, we don't speak English. I said, go to a church that speaks, an Adventist church. It says, I don't want to go to any church without you being there with me because I'm afraid I'm going to be judged. The kid wants to learn. Such a kind of Bible. And the conversations I have with him about, who am I? How do I become this person? And how do I embrace Christ? And how do I even go from one way to the other? Sometimes these kids will share certain things with us that may not necessarily go with our Christian values or what we are taught or learned in church. But it's our job to lead them to Christ. Pray with them and be a role model. You are telling them to do this, you're ministering to at-risk kids, but then they know you're smoking, or they know you are drinking, or they know you are the best chaser of men or women in the church, and then you do certain things. You think they don't know? Whatever you post on social media, the kids might see it. And so that might become something that they know. So you just have to be very mindful of that because they see you. They know your heart. If you're faking it, I'm telling you, that's why I like working with young people. They can see fake from a mile away. Don't pretend. They know you. And you have to be a role model. How should a Christian live their life? How should a Christian act? How do you even demonstrate God's love to these kids? Kids that people might overlook them and say hurtful things about them. How do you demonstrate God's love to them? Your role model. Act like one. Don't be afraid. But the world might tell you to act a certain way. You dress nicely, you sing, you are the youth, whatever, but on social media, the one that you hide with just your friends only, is that you're posting. Not good. Sometimes the kids know. They know. Until you are fake and nothing you do is working. Be a role model for them and pray with them. Remain consistent. And that's part of their being the role model and just showing the same face that you show, not showing one face and showing another here. You have to have the love in your heart should emanate this. You see it. Provide spiritual guidance. Sit with a kid. Talk to them. Hold their hands, even the ones that you don't want to hold hands with. Let them know that you love them. That's how you minister to these kids. It's the same as ministering to anybody. At the end of the day, we all need that human contact. We all need that trust. And like the videos that you just watched, shared, and what research has supported, and you all know, all a child needs is one or two, usually is one trusted adult. One. If I were to give you the chance to say somebody who made the biggest impact in your life outside of your family, I'm sure you all have names, several names. We were kind to me upon it. because we have all experienced grace from an adult. So that in your case, you have been placed also in a responsibility role where your job is to ensure that these kids feel that the spiritual whatever that they need to have, their spirituality or the pathway that they need to become amazing, incredible people. It's a big responsibility, but you have to be ready, be prepared. And sometimes whatever they're sharing with you is so much for you that a bro, so what's my uncle who counselor, my uncle who suffer, or who do you trust? Let me let you go talk to them because some of these kids need counseling. If it's substance abuse, they need help to detox. They need help to be made whole again. If it's sexual abuse, you cannot deal with it all by yourself. They need somebody that's going to talk to them and help them be whole again. So somebody will be doing the clinical, that healing and the emotional healing, and then you are doing the spiritual healing with this child. It goes hand in hand, but you have to find a Christian counselor. Now, Bujakwana woman say, a Christian counselor who understands our values to work with this child. Some of them, they're promiscuous. I mean, tell you, oh, yeah, I've slept with Joe, I've slept with Peter, I've slept with, Pomaa, and all those things. That's it. They're not going to talk to you ever again. They're not going to share anything. Listen and just tell the kid, maybe there's something here. What do you need? I need somebody to love me. Well, Jesus loves you. Jesus loves you. And and we love you. Because say, and I love you too, Because for a kid like that, they may misunderstand that. We say, and we love you as a church community. We are here for you. The child will come. But if you judge them, that's it. Pray. Pray and keep praying for them. In my job, I work in a school. You're not supposed to pray. And I don't pray with kids in my office. But some of the kids, I know what they're coming to see me with. Before the kid walks in, I pray for this child. Or I leave and I pray for that child. So because they need to. The Catholics have a hymn, and this is my last. They have a hymn that I love so I'm not going to sing it. I'm sure you guys wish I was singing, but I'm not going to sing it. But it says, whatsoever you do, and it says, whatsoever you do to the least of my brothers, that you do unto me. When I was hungry, and this is what we are ministering to them, right? You gave me to eat. These are the homeless kids from less with social economic, lower socioeconomic status that may not even have food. When I was hungry, you gave me to eat. When I was thirsty, you gave me to drink. Now enter into the home of my Father. When I was homeless, you opened your door. When I was naked, you gave me your coat. Now enter into the home of my Father. When I was weary, you helped me find rest. When I was anxious, you calmed all my fears. Now enter into the home of my Father. Whatsoever you do to the least of my brothers or my people, that you do unto me. That is what we have been entrusted with. That is our job. That is our responsibility. And so if you are here today, that's what you've been called to do. The job is to make sure these kids are safe. And let's continue to do that. Amen.
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 Amen. Thank you so much, Auntie. That was powerful. I told you guys we were going to be blessed, and I know I have been blessed. I took a couple of notes, but before, if anyone has any questions, please, you could unmute yourself or you could put it in the chat. I know there has been a request for us to share this recording with the various leaders so it could be played in the church. And that was one of the main reasons why Pastor Osei and the rest of the team, that was the main reason why we did this. So we're happy that that has been a request. So we are going to share that with the leaders as well. So please, if you have any questions, unmute yourself or you could put it in the chat and Auntie Pomaa will be able to answer that. Whilst the questions are coming, one thing that I would take, and I know Pastor Mazurita also did mention that being a role model, oftentimes we feel like we're just in a position for church. So we don't need to be role models to these kids, but it is essential for us to be role models and remember to continue to pray for them. So Auntie, thank you so much for highlighting that and sharing that with us.
Thank you.
Any questions? Okay, this question, there's one question that just came in. Should the youth report leaders who text them or make sexual advancement to them in the church?
So thank you for that question. I think, I mean, texting, what are you texting them for? But as a general practice, as a general rule, it's part of creating boundaries, right? What are you texting the child for? If they have to, maybe they have to do some work on Sabbath. So maybe they're doing the prayer or whatever. The text should have a purpose that is related to the work that you're doing with them. And sometimes you come home late from work and all those things. So maybe 10, 11 p.m. I wouldn't text a child at 10, 11 p.m. If I don't remember something and I want to talk to the child, what I do, I would text the parent and say, "Oh, I forgot. Can you tell your child to do this for me? Because I know I'm a grown woman, but you know what? No child is going to accuse me of something that I've not even crossed my mind to do. So I wouldn't, especially for a vulnerable child, I would not do that. You can wait the next morning, you can say, hey, this is, una bompaye. Just end it there. We want to say, una bompaye. How are you? You are praying on Sabbath. Leave it at that. Not ask about, oh, okay, uncle, how are you? Oh, I'm good, and then, I mean, even the language that you're using with this kid, that's the way I talk to my friends, different than the way I would talk to any child that I work with. I'm not saying be stiff. No, relax, be nice, be friendly, but set boundaries. So I wouldn't be texting if it's not related to my job and at an appropriate time. Making sexual advancement, yes. If an adult makes it, you have to let the pastor or the elder or somebody know. You're an adult. Why making a sexual advancement to a child, though? I mean, there's so many people your age, that you can go talk to if you're looking for a life partner. When you're in that place of authority, right? It's not just authority from the church; it's authority from God, because a nominating committee selected you for that role. You should respect that. So yes, if you're doing something untoward, absolutely, someone in the church should know and talk to you about it. That so you need to stop doing that. And then if it continues, well, then the church does what the church does.
Yeah, I think one thing I would add to what Auntie Pomaa just said is that dealing with vulnerable children, they can be very flingy when they come to trust you.
Mhm.
They will be calling you, they'll be testing you because you are the only person they trust and they want to hang out with you. That is why you need to set the boundaries, because at the end of the day, there'll be a dependency issues moving forward. And you don't want any transference also to come and start all that will follow. So it is key that when we're dealing with these vulnerable at-risk youth, we set the boundaries right from the get-go. And even if you have to share anything with what you're discussing, let them know I would have to share this with somebody or with this person. Once they know, they also come to trust you. If you go ahead and just say, oh, I'm a mandatory reporter, so I just go ahead and say, then you lose trust also in you. So we need to have a fine balance in doing this. Make sure that we always have a coverage, because if anything should happen to you as a leader, the church cannot come in for you. It will be you and the government. So it is key that always somebody, and especially when you're dealing with minors, if we are testing them, if it's not a risk you that wants to have a trust in you, then make sure the parents know you are talking to this person. Add them to your conversations. Make sure every conversation they have, they know and they understand what you're doing. If it's an email, add the parent to it. In that case, you have that visibility, you have clarity, and everybody knows the boundaries that we're working in. Other than that, sometimes they'll become very attached to you, and you have to respond to them at their beck and call in the night. They'll be calling you. I've had many of these incidences, but you have to cut the line and then it is set so that it doesn't fester on. Thank you once again, Auntie Pomaa.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you. And I'll add to all it takes is one child. That's all it
Right.
takes
Right.
to ruin your career, your life. All it takes is one child making an accusation. And if there's a slight evidence of that, that's it. So be mindful. Love them, help them, be there for them, because they need that. But you are the adult, set the space, the pace.
Okay. There was another question that came up following up the first question. It said, what if you have all the evidence and they still don't take it seriously? What's the next step, please?
Now, am I going to speak here as a social worker? Or I'm going to speak as a pastor's wife.
Feel free, Auntie. Feel free.
Listen, I mean, so my professional training, and I'm going to talk about professional training, is that if a child is being sexually harassed in any way by an adult, a report has to be made.
Okay, Auntie.
And I've talked to, the leadership, the pastors and whatever before. I've talked, and, even my own church elders, I told myself, listen, if anybody does anything unhealthy to a child, and the child, if I hear of it, I'm calling the cops on you. Not in a vengeful way or whatever, but my duty is to protect that child. So if they're not stopping, you have to escalate to the next level, right? So you have church elders. You tell the elders. If they're not listening to you, you tell the church pastor. And then it's not listening, of course, your parents are aware of it. Let them know if nothing is done about this, I'm going to escalate. I will make a report. And this institutional abuse. You don't want institutional abuse to come to your church and investigate, because they will come through everything, and one incident can escalate to so many things. So, just let them know that, listen, I have resources, and I need this addressed because this person keeps harassing me. So somebody needs to talk to this person, and make sure your parents are also aware of it. And I tell parents, you have to be supportive of your child, because and all those things, it doesn't matter. Your child is not the one causing the problem. It's the adult who should know better. So for me, and that's why I hesitated answering, because I take it very seriously. I get really upset about about an adult who is making a child's life uncomfortable for no reason at all. So yes, I would say escalate it and take it to, the next level. And, if nobody's listening to you, but this is happening to you, and it's a real thing, and, also, document on, 22525, uncle said this to me, document, so that, when you make that final report and you escalate it, you have the recording of it. I mean, not recording with your camera, because that could get you in trouble depending on what state you live in. But documenting, notes and taking notes and record the dates and things he says to you, or things he does to you, or she does to you, and all those things. And then your pastor cannot deny when you show them that, look at what is here, look at what this person has been doing to you. And it goes for you, youth leaders too, because you are in the same category, that you are not overstepping your bounds and doing anything inappropriate. Because yes, those things that I'm saying about some adult doing it, it can happen to you adults too, you youth leaders too. So just make sure that you are, and for a kid that's too clingy to you and keeps doing all those things, you can let somebody know that, listen, if you're working in small groups, hey, can you move, Akosia to the other group, because why? It for the another group, Obe Friday, just know you work for honeymoon. With my staff, I tell them, if a kid gets too attached, in a way that makes the staff uncomfortable, I remove it. I say, okay, go to a different counselor. But I want to talk to you. No, you're not going to talk to you. Because I have the duty to protect them too.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Yes, just the next 2 minutes so that we can wrap up. Just the last two in 2 minutes, please.
Sure. Miss Portia, if you can mute yourself so you can ask the question, please.
Thank you very much. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
All right. Thank you, Auntie, for the presentation. I wanted to ask about kind of creating trust with kids and all that. When it comes to conversation, I wanted to ask, because I know also part of being there for these kids, especially when they trust you and they confide in you, sometimes in our own experiences or certain things that we may have gone through. I wanted to ask, what is the risk in sharing that with them sometimes? For example, let's say I've been through suicide or I've attempted suicide before. So when a kid is talking to me about having these feelings or stuff like that, I might feel tempted to, let them know that, oh, I've been through it there, or, a couple of years ago, I was also in that situation, or that. I wanted to ask, or, either it be substance abuse or sexual abuse or whatever the situation might be. I wanted to ask, is there any harm in that if you're sharing that with a kid, or is there it has to be at a certain level or later, or like how soon is soon, or should we even share that with the kids at all? To I'm not sure like what it is. I guess what I'm trying to ask is like if we are to even share that with the kids, letting a kid know, or like to kind of show some sort of trust there that, oh, what you're going through, it's not just you. Like I've been there. You see me thriving, or like right now I'm an adult, I'm your leader. But I too was in that situation when I was at your age, or I too have been through those struggles before. Is there any harm in that when we share those with kids?
Great question. Great question. It's this is something that we still debate even in the mental health profession, right? Just sharing or identifying and things like that. So what can happen is that, so you owe them that confidentiality, right? When whatever they tell you, you have to keep it to yourself. They don't owe you that. So if you share something very personal, they don't have to keep it. So you have to be very mindful. You cannot say, oh, men can't show biao. That means you are creating that secrecy in that relationship, which you cannot do. And you know, the kid can go and tell anybody they want. So next thing you know, the whole church knows your business. So you have to be mindful of that too. And sometimes what that does to also sharing may be that, you know, the kid may be so moved by your, you know, that's what we're talking about. Transparency and kind of transparency and all those things. The kid may be so moved by your story or what you share that they end up comforting you. So the next time they come in, they're not talking about their issue. They're saying, so tell me about that time when you attempted suicide again, you know, because they want to know. So it's you just have to be very. It's a what do you call it? A minefield, right? You just have to know where to step so that you're not blowing yourself up. It's a little harsh, whatever, but that's what I could think of right now. And then getting yourself in a place. What I would say, proceed with caution. Proceed with caution when you have to share something. You have to develop that trust first, so that you're not becoming the kid's therapist, but rather, you know, the kid is your, you know, whatever. But I'm trying to say, the kid is your therapist. Yeah, you're not. The kid is not your therapist. But you're sharing too much because you don't know where to end it. And also, confidentiality goes is one-sided. It's not both-sided. So I would say something like, if a kid is sharing something like, you know, you can say, oh, you know what? I mean, I have dealt with this before. Not me dealt with it, but you know, I have and know that when people go through this is how they may feel, this is what they may do, this is how they can get help. You're talking about your own experience, but in a way, but you are framing it in a way that kind of generalizes it. But because you've also experienced it, you have a better understanding of what people actually experience in that situation. So you are hitting those points that the kid will go, yeah, yeah, yeah. But you're not saying, say, I personally attempted, or I personally have suicidal thoughts, or those things like that. So you can say, yeah, I understand, you know, I mean, when people go through this, they do this, they do that, they do that. Maybe what? Yeah, it's gonna be feeling okay. So what can we do to help you? Then you're allowing the kid to lead and helping you come up with a plan for them, as opposed to you fully disclosing. Sometimes it helps to disclose, but I would say proceed with caution, proceed with caution, proceed with caution, because confidentiality is one-sided. It's not two.
Thank you so much, Auntie. That was very insightful. Guys, I know you've been blessed and you've taken some notes to be able to share with those who aren't able to join us. And like we said, this is being recorded, so we'll share with the various leaders so we can be able to share with our young people as well. Pastor Ben, should we have a song or should we go straight
Yes, yes, thank you very much, Sister JC, and thank you very much, Auntie Pomaa. That has been very insightful presentation. I had a question that maybe we'll have to keep talking about. It will be, at what point you have to refer the individual to a professional counselor, a Christian counselor, because some of us sometimes try to be counselors, but you're not trained. And so at a point, I think there should be a handoff, and that wouldn't have to, because after some time, then you become a problem for the person that you're trying to help. So maybe if you have a second, 30 seconds to talk about that.
Yes, I can talk about that. So, you know, if you're not trained to address substance abuse, sexual violence, and all those things, definitely refer the kid. You know, you can provide support at church, like endowment course and all those things, but definitely refer, because you may be causing more harm, you know, than helping them. If you've been a victim of one of those things, once again, you know, it's hard to provide that service, because you know, you can over-identify, you can get too much into it, and you may yourself be also re-traumatized by that experience. So I would say, you know, don't do it. And you know what I mean? At the end of the day, I think that also be prepared. But at any point where you feel like, okay, this is too much for me, it's causing me angst, I don't think I have the tools to help this child, you should refer them. You can still work with them later, you know, but refer them to a professional counselor.
Very well. Many, many thanks. Thank you very much once again for your time, your experience, and the resource that you shared with us. Folks, we will be taking about 30 seconds music or break, and then you don't want to miss the final one. Dr. Kofi is ready to fire. If you've enjoyed this one, wait for the final one. It's going to be amazing. Brother Gabriel, will be leading that section for us. So you don't want to miss it. And afterwards, that's it, we're done. And we very appreciate for your coming, for your time, and also for being with us. I also want to recognize Love One, our former National Youth, NASDAQ Youth Yaya leader. The director is with us. Love One, welcome. Thank you for joining us. At this point, I will yield to the communication and music team to give us a song, and then we wrap up. I see, Auntie Pomaa, your hand is up.